Hello. A few minutes early. So as we all know by now, Florida have become back-to-back Stanley Cup champions in what has been the most impressive run of the decade so far. To take nothing away from how their cross-state rivals, Tampa Bay, kicked things off. It's just been really just remarkable stuff from them. With their atypical approach to building a juggernaut and their consistent success in a very competitive league. This time around it was even easier for them than it was. Obviously last time it wasn't easy at all because they nearly got reverse swept. But this wasn't really a competitive series. Like, it started off close with those overtime matchups and then quickly went the other way. Just they improved in all the right ways. They kind of conserved themselves throughout the regular season, and so less dominant showing also had injury problems, but ultimately ended up showing themselves, and proving themselves as the best constructed roster designed to succeed in specific areas, be it by forechecking, winning puck races, winning puck battles, being a possession dominant team, etc., and just using that to their advantage. Honestly, I have time for some lofty, and some aggressive statements about how useful Brad Marchand was for them as a rental or whatever the case may be on that front, and acquisition at minimum to help them push themselves over the edge. Just a phenomenal high hockey IQ, high skill player even now. A phenomenal spark plug. Great showing by him. Great showing by Sam Reinhart, by Sam Bennett as well, even though I don't really like the way that just from a standpoint of being a fan of good management, I don't really like how this sets the table for how he will be compensated in free agency. There's no denying the fact that he had a phenomenal fucking run. Kudos to him for that Conn Smythe Trophy win. And hey, I won't hold it against him if he gets a great payday. I'm sure I'm going to roll my eyes at that AAV when I see it, as well as the term considering his age. But, he did his job in securing the bag. I'm not mad at him for it. I'll just be very judgmental of the GM that does it. Which apparently is going to be Bill Zito based off of how that topic was handled. I'm assuming Christian will be on momentarily. And that's fine. I did get out ahead of this a bit, as I tend to do, just for the sake of efficiency and, maximizing the utilization of this space. There he is. Hold on. Yeah. Let me try that again. Okay, now it should work, hopefully. Do I have... Let's see. Man, this thing is being very tedious. Okay, now we got something.
Oh, yeah.
Great. Got the Snorlax hat going?
Oh, yeah.
Very nice.
more comfortable hats I've acquired through the years. One of the most well structured interiors to a hat that I've ever had, which is really surprising. In general, I never expect, something from one of the largest. It's kind of weird to say, something from one of the largest merchandising IPs to actually have quality product, which is weird because I have my Pride Disney Magic Kingdom cap that is also remarkably comfortable. So maybe there is some validity to corporate money suction pit IPs creating quality content. I think there might also be a correlation because the most uncomfortable hat I have is my MCLA Trailblazers hat, which, like, no disrespect to the Massachusetts College of Liberal Art, but a D3 hockey hat being the least comfortable I own and a Pokemon hat being the most does kind of check out with the logic that I just threw down to open this episode on my end. And boy, that's the energy I'm starting off with this week. Better energy than some articles I've seen. Something something Igor Shesterkin something something snubbed.
I'll
Like
also
when
go ahead.
like whenever I look at heart voting, the first stat, and I know it's not a real stat, it's just a fucking centralized analytic, and it's not even an analytic, it's just an aggregate. It's like I look at point shares usually when I look at heart votes in the history of the league, and like if you're not even the fucking GPS leader for that season in particular, like, bruh, you're not in the conversation for the heart if you're not even the most valuable goalie to your team. And I know it's not a true analytic, but like the correlation between a top five point share player and winning the heart, there's some correlation there, and that shouldn't be a surprise.
I almost laughed as you were saying that because I imagined my ideal world. I obviously don't have this much of an obsession with this statistic, even though I do believe that because of how granular it already is, it's an incredibly useful statistic for player evaluation. But I just imagine like the the MVP would go to the best expected goals player uh, in the fucking league, and I almost cracked up as I had that thought, even though it was entirely a machination of my own brain.
It's funny with like how, as analytics have become more prevalent in the NHL and in the hockey world, like it's interesting how at least myself being the data analytics nerd that I am, like I love goal share, expected goal share, goals saved above expected, etc. stats. But like, I like how in a written content, I don't need like I think during over large sample sizes and in real time, I think it's a great capture and monitoring of like the legitimate quality of players in the National Hockey League because of course it is, and anybody who argues otherwise is a fucking idiot. But now where I'm going with this, where like for myself when I evaluate transactions and free agency, as people who are potentially following along with a lot of the NHL ones that I've put out recently, where I've been using goals above replacement pretty consistently and .60 more and more. And the only reason that I use, goals above replacement so consistently is, yes, is it's a boomer stat for one, and it's not necessarily a great, indicator of a player's ability level in any fucking situation, like in a vacuum. Which is like, wait, you're already shitting on your own analytic you use, your own stat, and it's, one of the things that I think, me being the most, scouting pessimistic person in the hockey world, I suck the joy out of every situation of any player under the age of 23 as well as any acquisition because I just look at the glass half empty of, but what if it doesn't work out to a point where I think that the best example of goals above replacement for evaluating the NHL is the way that I use it in the sense of what is the baseline expectation for this player's value contribution to a team? Like, what is the high level value? Like, I'm not going to look at Mitch Marner's expected goal share and his, play driving ability, when somebody's going to sign him. It's what's the bottom end of his threshold and what's the top end and what's the reasonable expectation. And then from there, you can, reverse engineer how much, the probability within the probability can be swayed by, expected goal share, primary assist rates, effective on ice percentage. But it's really interesting how goals above replacement isn't even really used by most people in the context of just the baseline, because obviously evaluating any transaction immediately after it happens with the assumption of fact and historical perspective without probability is just really fucking bad journalism and analysis in most instances. Like reasons that reasons you don't crown teams in August, and also something I avoided talking about in the Burakovsky article. Man, is if only we awarded Stanley Cup championships on name value and on paper. And for those at home wondering, I have not had any caffeine in like 9, 10 hours, so this is just a pure manic water fueled opening here.
That good old dihydrogen monoxide.
Yeah, 100% fatality rate for those dihydrogen monoxide consumers.
Now, this is my other question. Is that energy better than the one that was the vibe that was probably brought to the rum by Matthew Darch and his colleagues when apparently conducting that very awkward Matthew Schaefer dinner?
That is one of the strangest things I've ever heard, solely on account of if you plan to draft this individual, that is without a doubt, without unreasonable expectations of just saying out of pocket shit, i.e. Sean McDermott and his motivational speeches. Aside from that type of ecosystem or just doing something completely unprecedented and unruly, like, that is just a terrible thing to do. Like, because at the end of the day, like, so much of this process comes down to building trust.
Yeah.
And, like, there are so many things that you should, like, there are very few things I think that you're ever going to have an opportunity to do that you shouldn't fucking do. Of like, man, like, in order to, they're going to put me in a vulnerable and uncomfortable situation. Like, it's one thing to ask somebody a stupid fucking question at the scouting combine because, like, at the end of the day, it's just, semantics and it's just a part of the expected bullshit of being a prospect. Like,
Right.
players are prepared to be asked dumb shit or play stupid games. But, like, to put somebody on the spot like that and put them in such a vulnerable position is just like, why the fuck would he even want to play? Like, if that's how you're courting somebody, like, that's just not great optics for anybody involved. It's not good for the relationship if you drop the guy. And like, he's not going to live with that for the rest of his life. But it sets such a bad precedent in the negotiation process moving forward. So they're obviously going to draft Roger McQueen. I'm kidding. Please don't hurt me.
Yeah. For more elaborate context, for the listeners, it has been reported that during the conclusion of of course, the top 2025 NHL entry draft prospects dinner with the New York Islanders, he was asked to pay the bill to see what the reaction on his end would be, as I guess another one of those character tests. And it was just like a discomforting notion, even just on its face. And like, I definitely can't think of an instance of that ever being utilized. And it's definitely like that front office is in a compromised spot as the lineage of um, new GMs, in the case of Matthew Darch, the position that he is in currently, being situated in a spot where they are drafting first overall, is a high stakes situation that has happened on a number of occasions, and historically the returns have not been good. Like, I'll pull that list up right now, courtesy of NHL stats. Let's see. Appropriately enough, the first instance of that was Bill Torrey drafting Billy Harris for the Islanders in 1972. Then the Capitals did so with Max McNabb taking Rick Green, 1976. Ted Lindsay, newly appointed GM of the Detroit Red Wings in 1977, took Dale McCord. Lou Nan took Bobby Smith for the Minnesota North Stars in 1978. Jerry Meehan took Pierre Turgeon in 1987 when drafting for the Buffalo Sabres. Definitely one of the better returns on this list. Incidentally, in consecutive years, this happened for the Quebec Nordiques, with them taking Matt Sundin in 1989, while general managed by Martin Madden, while Pierre Page took Owen Nolan in 1990. Randy Sexton drafted Alexander Daig in his new capacity for the Ottawa Senators in 1993. Then it was the Sens again in 1996, as Pierre Gauthier took Chris Phillips. Our boy Don Waddell took Patrick Stefan for the Atlanta Thrashers in 1999. And then, of course, most recently we had Ken Hughes taking Uri Slafkovsky for the Montreal Canadiens in 2022. So now Darch is positioned in such a way where he is, he has high pressure to take, the guy who might be the best defensive draft prospect since Rasmus Dahlin. But even if they go the foregone conclusion route and take BPA, what sort of foot is their relationship really starting on with that report in mind?
Yeah. It's definitely not where the Islanders. It's not wise, but by the same. I don't know. I do wonder what they're gonna do on draft night. Like, it seems obvious that they're gonna take Schaefer, but I also don't. I don't trust. It's kind of like how I don't trust Pat Verbeek to do anything on draft night that you would expect a rational, like. I guess, I feel like the Islanders, Pat Verbeek plus the Islanders is kind of like heading into Friday. Right, yeah. Saturday, yeah. Friday. Man, I'm bad at knowing what day it is. Rebecca Black helped me out here. Like, the Islanders and Pat Verbeek feel like a guy who needs CPR on the side of the highway that would actually pull out a gun and kill you for saving their life at this point. Is their level of rational thinking.
I was protected under Good Samaritan laws. Keep going.
Exactly. Good Samaritan laws don't apply to them if they go about vigilantism in their own right, Like, the Islanders could take Schaefer. They could go off the board. They could trade the pick at the last fucking second. Like, I have no idea what they're gonna do. And they could go and just take Schaefer and do the most rational, logical thing. But I don't trust them. Like, that's what I've always liked about the Buffalo Sabres in the first round the last like 10 years is, good old reliable Buffalo, which might also be why they're bad, is they go and they take the guy you think they're going to take every time. Like, the Sabres don't do anything weird, at least on draft day, at least with the players they select. Like, the Islanders are going to open up a wormhole of possibilities probably in the next week. And I invite it in the instance of, like, I really want to see teams take a page out of Zito's take a page out of Bill Z.
You know exactly why I chuckled at that.
Yeah,
We derailed you. Do your best
like,
to keep
if
going.
fucking Dallas. Barry Zito. Yeah, I did that on purpose. Take a page out of Bill Zito's
Hold
book.
on. I gotta switch hats now that you said that. I know it's in here somewhere.
Barry Zito, Barry Manilow, Barry the Chopper. What a sequence of references that is. Shout out Barry the Chopper. You did not die in vain, my friend. You helped destroy a homunculus. Um, but on a hockey related note, taking a page out of Bill Zito's playbook, I really want to see some teams be bold in the next couple of weeks, and stop being little cowards and go out and make the difficult, complicated trade. Go out, you look at the Panthers and how they went out and they got Reinhardt, and they went out and they got Kachuk, and they went out and they made the big gambles in the offseason to make their teams better. And, like, it's clear and obvious that we need more of that. And I think that and I know that Dallas is not actively shopping Jason Robertson at this point, but man, some team has to come around here with Dallas and try to make the fucking craziest trade offer. Like, I was sitting, on my couch earlier, like, if I'm Don Sweeney, do I offer David Pastrnak to the Dallas Stars for Robertson, Dumba, and a draft pick and maybe another prospect? Like, be bold, do something crazy. Like, worst case scenario, if you're Dallas, you have a fucking Rantanen and Pasternak 1-2 punch on the wing for the next 8 years, 6 years, whatever. And if you're Boston in that situation, you get a second pairing right-handed D and Dumba. You get Jason Robertson, who could be the franchise player you've been looking for, who you can build around and elevate while also getting younger and get some draft capital from Jim Nill. Like, be insane, be bold. Like, you're not gonna win shit the rest of Pasternak's career, so do something insane. Like, do something bold. Like, we look at Calgary, like, it's, this might be a hot take, but the Flames would be worse if they hadn't made the Kachuk trade. If all they had on that roster was Kachuk at this point, the dude would be swimming up a fucking creek without a paddle with a coach that doesn't know how to use them. Like, Huberdeau and Uyghur make Calgary better in the same regard that Kachuk makes Florida better. Like, at the end of the day, anybody that thinks Kachuk would still be going to the playoffs in Calgary just on his own individual merits on that roster is delusional. Like, there sometimes are trades that mutually benefit both parties, even if it does appear to be lopsided in hindsight. Because it's not like Calgary would have survived the losses of fucking Lindholm and Gaudreau at that same junction. Like, they're in the position they're in now is better than where it could have been if they hadn't made that trade. And I'm tired of pretending that it's not.
Now you see
The
Or should I say now UOC to use the proper gang-weed verbiage.
Daryl Sutter got what he fucking deserved.
Really says a lot about our society.
Flames rise up.
Bill Peters also got what he deserved.
Yeah. Actually, to be fair, Daryl Sutter didn't truly get what he deserved. Like, he metaphorically got Lenny from Of Mice and Men when he literally should have gotten Lenny from Of Mice and Men, and I will not change my ethical opinion on that. Bill Peters is right there with him.
Oh, 100%. Although,
Both.
I could think of probably better ways for him to go, but keep going.
No, I don't. Some coaches just deserve to get the good old sitting on a log treatment.
No, the revenge porn thoughts that I'm having about Bill Peters right now are not things I want to say about say on a public forum, even if it is in condemnation of racism. So I'm gonna keep them to myself and probably drop them in the group chat.
Yeah, sometimes a coach deserves to get the Lenny treatment. And thinking about coaching hires and firings that have come up.
I don't know if I can keep this A's hat on. It just looks so incongruous. But keep going.
And sometimes you see a good coach die on the battlefield for reasons. I guess we got to see the full spectrum this year in hockey in the NHL. Like, I think Peter DeBoer rightfully got Lennied this season. A deserved execution. But then you look at Jim Montgomery in Boston. And just because I can make this comparison in the ethos and the ecosystem of John Steinbeck, Jim Montgomery effectively got coyotitoed. He died for the plot, if nothing else. He was an innocent man giving a cry for help who died for the plot, man. Yeah, we referenced the Pearl on this episode. We are literary.
Thinking about that Crucible reference you made a couple weeks ago now.
I was explaining that. I was trying to explain that to Mark yesterday while walking the rail trail in Salem. And I'll be honest, Lightning did not strike twice, and I could not capture the original delivery of that at 12:07 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon in Salem, New Hampshire.
Fortunately, with my already close to eidetic memory and my admiration for that moment in particular, I can remember the exact articulation of, I wonder if Marilyn Manson's inability to come was the inspiration behind the Crucible. Only the real ones know why it's Manson and not Monroe. Like, that is some deep musical project lore.
But I wonder which Arthur Miller. Who would have won in a fight in their prime? Arthur Miller, the author, or Arthur Miller, the hockey player that played for the University of North Dakota from 1957 to 1960?
That is gold.
I gotta bet on the younger solely because he's from Moose Jaw, and I don't know, would a white guy from Harlem survive in a fight against a guy from Moose Jaw? We'll never know.
No. Shit.
I also find it funny in the middle of this rant, Mark hit me with a text about the Boston Fleet that I will read after this episode. I think it also didn't land as well with him as it would, in our context of him being a big Arthur Miller fan. I think he had the cognitive dissonance at first of, but wait, weren't they married? What? Huh. Maybe. Like it didn't hit the same way as it did for you and I because we're disturbed individuals.
Jesus.
What a twist.
Oh man.
Uh, I guess when you look at Pete DeBoer getting fired as well, I guess he also falls under the death of a salesman ecosystem as well.
True.
Man, we're getting very American lit on this episode, and it's really funny how in the last week in our group chat we had a bit of a rant about the declining levels of media literacy in America, and now my current journalistic mantra of "Make America Think Again" by not having takes anymore. Like, have we become angel-headed hipsters? I had to. I had to finish on a NAMBLA reference.
Nice. Where's it going with this? Yeah, but I think what's like a thing we talked about behind closed doors that's like most pertinent is that the takes-based approach is deliberately controversial, and when it comes to deliberate controversy, the other word for that is bait, which I mean, of course, and especially like with the way that this is so social media driven engagement, especially on platforms such as X, where discourse has gone to die effectively. Like anything controversial is on these sort of platforms is just bait at this point. So when you just sort of whittle it down to data that is supposed to be objective, then you kind of improve the overall ecosystem of discourse, I'd say. Almost through this jar. Speaking of the Calgary Flames. I really had to thank Blake Coleman for having that 30-goal season, or else I wouldn't have done this. But I also have to thank those empty net goals that helped facilitate it, because there certainly were plenty of them, but they don't ask how, they ask how many.
Yeah. You know who I'd like to see drink pickle juice with Blake Coleman in downtown Lowell? Jack Kerouac.
You just had to shoehorn another American Lit reference in there, huh?
Yeah, I also shoehorned Jack Kerouac into a professional meeting I was in on Friday afternoon as an apology to the CEO of my current company, as I was about to go on a long-winded rant that seemingly made no sense or had any connectivity between any of the points, and I was trying to get a lot of content out in a very short amount of time. And here we are. Hey, the, the people who spend a little bit of time in Lowell sometimes go on to do great things.
Like Connor Hellebuck, for instance.
Yeah, Connor Hellebuck's 2 years in the city of Lowell, Now he's won an MVP. Like, it's kind of wild to think about, like, or not wild, wild would be, Philip Gustafson. Um,
Yeah, it's not crazy. It's ironic. Crazy would be as if I buried an axe in your skull.
I don't remember the inspiration behind that piece of shitty American literature. Like, I think I stole that concept from Evan. Like, Evan had said something along those lines to me one night at Stop and Shop. Shout out to the boy Evan. About like this isn't crazy. Crazy would be me doing something, and I think it had something or other to do with juggling or throwing chainsaws. I don't entirely remember it because this was over a decade ago, and those were back in the days where I'd be awake for several days at a time. Point not with logic withstanding though from people with Lowell, because Evan once met 2/3 of typo negative at a McDonald's in Lowell. And around that time, shit, what coach am I thinking of? Fuck. Man, I can't believe my, who was that coach? He was an assistant for the Capitals. That I think somebody recently signed, or were gonna sign, and the Bruins were Mitch Love. Mitch Love.
Oh yeah.
Man, that took way too long for me to figure out. And I might have the ability to connect another moment here. Evan met typo negative at least 2/3 of the members of the bands at a McDonald's in Lowell the same year Mitch Love was playing for the Lowell Lock Monsters. What does that mean? Absolutely fucking nothing. But it's cool. As the people sitting at home are, who the fuck is this Evan guy that he's talking about, and what is his relevance to any of this? And that's the beauty. There's nothing. The man doesn't follow hockey. The man has no interest in this sport. He's just a pirate-looking guy with a mohawk.
Do you remember where you were going with your Connor Hellebuck train of thought?
Yes, guys go to Lowell to have a couple of great years, and then, in the case of Connor Hellebuck, and kind of thinking back to LeBron James' rant about individual accomplishments versus a team sport, we're like, Connor Hellebuck has effectively accomplished everything he could pretty much ever want to accomplish as an individual contributor in professional hockey. Like, one of the most dominant NCAA goaltenders of all time. Check. Probably the best NHL goaltender of his era. Check. Probably the most hardware or decoration of any, American-born goaltender. Check. Like, guy's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Like, there's nothing on an individual, and I cannot stress that statement enough, individual accolade, like, left for him to really do. Like, and that's great. The rest of, he has 7 years left on his contract, I think, and the rest of it's just how much more can he stack onto his resume. Like, if Winnipeg never wins a championship, so be it. Like, it's Winnipeg. They don't win. Like, it's like Vancouver. The expectation that they're going to accomplish any, like, team greatness is pointless. Like, just keep building the resume of, like all he has really left to try to do, and again, it's a team accomplishment, is an Olympic gold medal next year. Like, that's pretty much, like, there is literally no individual accomplishments left for him to chase. And I think that's great. Maybe get a statue built outside the Songus.
Yeah.
It's overdue. He deserves it. They're never going to get back to the Frozen Four. And I really hope if they do, somebody finds this exact moment where I just said that and holds me accountable for the rest of my life because I fucking welcome it.
Maybe I
I'd,
should like cut a reel and like tag Austin Elliott on Instagram.
yeah, there are very few things where I'd be okay with people making me look like an asshole about keeping receipts, but if the Riverhawks fuck around and actually do something before I'm dead, that would be great.
Yeah.
But I appreciate them keeping Norm Bazin around. And, a lot of people are going to say his coaching methods are tired and they don't work anymore. And I don't think that that's untrue to an extent. But, I really hate the advent of social media where at the Division One level, UMass Lowell was largely impotent in most competition. Like, it's not like they were ever in a situation prior to the Bazin era where they were consistently relevant or competitive at the top levels of the fucking sport. Like, it's kind of like Toronto Maple Leaf syndrome of, like, if I'm UML, like, because unlike Maine, where like Maine has won a national championship, so there is some history of exceptional status. Like for the Riverhawks, just being a top 16 program every couple of years should be considered an incredible like success. Much like how Leafs fans need to get over themselves and stop trying to be Marilyn Manson with six ribs and accept that this massive playoff run that they've been on in the Matthews era is something that should be celebrated instead of bemoaned because they've been a fucking poverty franchise since 1967. But I digress. I also regress.
Yeah. I was thinking about something like how like is that current? Let me double check something.
Are you gonna remember me? Remember me?
Uh, why does it not default? Like I don't give a fuck about this dude's playing stats. I want to see his like fucking staff profile. There it is. Uh, okay. Yeah. Let's see. Man, this thing's really letting me down. Yeah. So, uh, okay. You know what? The specifics of that don't really matter that much. Like so, I was thinking about something. Like um. I was thinking, just as a formality, Bazin should stick around long enough to surpass Bill Riley Jr. Just by like a stat compiling standpoint and become the program's winningest ever coach in terms of total wins. But like whether or not that happens is kind of irrelevant if you think about it, because I mean. Bill Riley Jr.'s legacy at UML was primarily accumulated by them being a D2 powerhouse. Which I mean, to his credit, he did over, the course of the earlier parts of his 22 years there, help them become what they were. And I also deeply admire the fact that it was built almost entirely out of spite, because a big part of Riley's drive was just being better than Merrimack, who he hated with every fiber of his being. But, man, I'll have even more rants like this when we get to the dead of summer and I'm talking about other Merrimack Valley hockey coaches from that time period, i.e. Bruce Parker's careers. But at any rate, like, I mean, Bazin is already their winningest coach at the D1 level. and it's not particularly close either. And he has the best winning percentage of like any, uh, any coach they've had in their history, irrespective of tenure length. So it's like, uh, really, like anything that he did would be effectively tantamount to any other instance of record chasing just for the sake of doing it. Like he's already in the context of that program, in like its specific context, he's already proven himself in every possible manner that he feasibly can. So it's like, does it really matter if he gets that extra like uh approximately I don't know, 85, 86 extra wins and make that happen? Not really.
You know what's shocking
What?
that I didn't realize, and this is more for our boy Gover back at home. So shout out to Tabor Academy for having one of their alums win a Stanley Cup in the form of Megna. But something that flew under my radar is they had a winning season last year.
Huh.
It's been 30 years.
Wow.
I want to point out, and just to really appropriately reflect on Tabor Academy through the years, they changed coaches finally. I think that the father was relieved or retired and his son took over. Could be wrong. But I'm impressed by the job security of Deneen, who is effectively like the coach of the fucking Washington Generals, in the sense of this man had a losing season every single year of his career behind the bench there, and somehow was never relieved of his duties. And the first year after he's gone, they managed a winning season. And I think that's incredible.
True enough. Now, really, to tie things together, Bill Riley Jr. played his college hockey at Boston University, and one of his teammates at the time, to really throw it back to the very early formative stages of this legend's career, throughout his entire time there, was none other than Jack Parker, who of course was the head coach of Tabor Academy alumnus Travis Roy.
So for context, to give the full strat, Jerry Deneen was there from 2002 to 2024, and at no point did he ever have a fucking winning season. And I think that's great. Man, I haven't thought about Travis Roy in a couple months.
I was gonna say it was probably since that game, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Man.
I'm going to hell.
Yeah, I was thinking like you can't have a segment like this without at least having probably two screws loose. Like I think one would be underselling it.
Tabor Academy is definitely one of the most interesting Massachusetts prep schools. Solely because of just how little success like they've had through the years, or like now I think Peter Gintoli, I believe, is their and Charles Deneen is like the core of their coaching staff. And it's also remarkable that they haven't even updated their fucking website that they changed their head coach when Deneen literally stepped away from the program last year, which is how are you supposed to attract talent if You don't even fucking update your public website when your coach like retires and you have a new coach. Like, what the fuck? And like subsequently, not having any major posting about the fact that like literally an alumnus of your school just won a fucking Stanley Cup or the Stanley Cup and there isn't any acknowledgement. And then like subsequently like when in the PWHL draft this week, how bad is Tabor at recruiting? Like Skylar Irving is going to get drafted in 2 days, probably in a mid to late round out of Northeastern. Like they're going to have a PWHL player drafted and a fucking alumnus win a Stanley Cup in a matter of like 7 days, and not put out any major like press about it. And it makes you wonder why Phillips Academy is remarkably successful, and Thayer's remarkably successful, but like their X account like hasn't posted anything in like a year, 6 months since Abby Newhook scored 100 points at BC. That's it. That's the whole ecosystem for them. Terrible. Despicable. You can tell we're into the off season, but the off season hasn't really started. Where I'm taking shots at a prep school on the fucking Cape.
Man. No, I'm just looking over at Bill Riley, like the juxtaposition between Bill Riley Jr.'s NCAA D2 and NCAA D1 records. Like, his key, obviously, like totally for his career, he had 363 wins, 270 losses, and let's see, 22 ties. But his D1 record definitely leaves something to be desired as they cut their teeth initially in ECAC as the Lowell Chiefs and subsequently in Hockey East for the final 7 years of his coaching career, going a combined, 114, 166, and 16. Like, you might as well just give like the GOAT status. Like again, you kind of have to acknowledge like the builders of a program like that, because I mean they wouldn't even be in D1 without Riley, obviously. But like you can just give Bazin the GOAT status at that point when you distinguish these two's accomplishments at the highest level of collegiate hockey.
I do love me some collegiate hockey.
But to be the most relevant dev hockey there is by orders of magnitude.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun for me this season. Following the NCAA through your eyes, as I will be substantially busy at the start of the college hockey season. For those of you who are curious, if you follow me on this platform on Facebook, you can snoop through my wall and find out, or my timeline. I'm not going to make any statements about it for now. I might talk about it a bit as we get closer. But yeah, I'll be mildly predisposed, potentially still cranking out articles in the wee hours of the night while awake, and covering either NHL or PWHL storylines out of insomniac energy. but we'll not be covering college hockey, and we'll very much enjoy Liam's content in the college hockey space while I am predisposed to not to be disrespectful, but slightly more important life events.
Oh, by far.
Uh,
Yeah, I'll be there in the trenches this year. Like I definitely plan on being in the cage a a greater number of times than I was this past season. Because I mean, you got to see a landscape changing that much up close, especially when you can do it for free, like as many times as you can. And I'll have some good stuff out.
I really need to start whipping my student ID out at UML just to see what happens. That'd be fun. That picture's so old. The that student fun fact is that student ID, and now I might have to put a photo of this out on the internet if anybody asks. This is not farming, but that student ID is where the Eliza Dushku comps started, which is a very odd thing.
Yeah.
Greatest compliment I've ever gotten, I swear to God. But if I shave the beard, I don't think it'll hit the same. I'm too old and disheveled by the years of my life to get that comp anymore. I don't get hit on by old guys as much as I used to.
I got hit on by an old guy in Lowell once.
I mean, I used to get hit on by guys in Lowell, but the problem is like the ratio of it has always been really odd. Where like the ratio of heterosexual, homosexual, and pansexual males hitting on me in Lowell was pretty even, which said a lot of things about my appearance about a decade ago. So maybe I should keep that student ID locked away a little bit longer.
Fuck. Jesus Christ, what an episode this has been. Do we want to commit our last 6 minutes of regulation time, reference intentional, to finals coverage as well as anything you might have to say about the PWHL?
Yeah, really finals of Florida showed up when it mattered. Edmonton's blue line, faltered in their most important moment.
Yeah.
Roster construction matchups were just such a fucking pivotal part of how that worked out for Florida. Like, they earned it. Well-deserved championship, well-deserved run. For he who shall not be named, the narrative of this Panthers team, whether or not we can claim this dynasty was built through the draft or through tanking, I feel like the people who are saying that Florida didn't tank to build this team are kind of delulu. And you're going to be like, well, they didn't sell the farm to build this team, but like, I think that being an absolute shitwagon for 20 years is akin to being a team who stripped it down to the bolts, not intentionally, but based on the fact that they couldn't competently construct a roster until the turn of the 2010s.
Yeah.
And even then, they signed fucking like 8 UFAs over the age of 30 in 2012 and then traded all of them within a couple of years. So to
Yeah.
pretend that this Florida team wasn't built through just 20 years of genuine incompetence in a one skillfully executed sell-off the year that they drafted in the Barkov and Ekblad drafts
Yeah.
is definitely delulu.
Yeah, they don't really position themselves to win trades, really, which was like a quintessential part of this team becoming what it did without positioning themselves, through just multiple micro generations of being mediocre to bad. Like this is just like, yeah, sure, they had the right architect to put them where they were, but like, and I think an identity change also had something to do with them turning around too. But like, I really think that none of those things are really possible without them basically eating shit for as long as they had.
You know what other team I think deserves a lot of credit in terms of Florida's recent success? And I know this is going to sound like a really weird thing to say because, like, they fucked them out of winning a third Stanley Cup, but, like, the Vegas Golden Knights, to their credit in their correlation to the Florida Panthers, like, Vegas wrote the book on what Florida did to do this. Like, Florida got here by being bold and sacrificing, the long term kind of, but like they just went out and made phone calls and made offers and made trades and wheeled and dealt and did things that other teams weren't willing to do. Like they were willing to take humongous home run swings, not for rentals. They weren't doing the idiotic shit like trading for Tyler Bertuzzi, Dmitry Orlov, anything that the Devils did a couple years ago, everything the Rangers like. They looked at what the Knights did, where Vegas has never been about the rentals. It's been about taking humongous bold swings to go get your Petrangelos in free agency, your Mark Stones, your Paciorettys. You're wheeling and dealing and admitting you got it wrong and getting out of a bad decision, but like buying in and committing to the big maneuvers. And like Florida literally just did exactly what Vegas did, but they did it better and they did it bigger when they went out and they got Kachuk, when they went out and they got Bennett, when they waiver claimed Forsling, when they went out and got Jones. Like, it's not a secret that being bold with long-term intent clearly fucking works. And just the problem is every GM is so afraid to be unconventional and go be bold, even though it's clear and it's obvious. Like Jim Nill just did it with the Rantanen deal. Like Jim Nill's been doing it, and Jim Nill's only problem is his team can't somehow manage to win when it matters most. And like again, you look at Dallas and what I said about Toronto earlier. Like if you're being bold and taking the big swings and making the difficult moves to do what Florida's doing and what Dallas is doing and what Vegas is doing, it's not a surprise that these teams are perennially some of the last 4 to 8 standing by being bold.
Oh yeah. It's funny because I think about the complementary side of things for the forward depth, which I think was like another issue for Edmonton, is that their idea of shoring up the roster in terms of their forward options beyond the top end guys, of course, namely 97 and 29, and especially in like the bottom sixes, those guys are big names. But the thing is, I think that, a lot of those guys that they picked up for that part of the forward group are past their stage of vitality at this point. Like, I mean, you look at most of them, they're like 33, 34, older than that even a lot of the time. Like, at what point do you just like start to think that you just start to get smart about it, and rather than chase like name clout? And it's appropriate that the series ended with Evander Kane tossed from the game, like considering he's such a strong exemplifier of just getting a washed depth guy for them. To say nothing of how things look on the PR side of that pickup. It's like, at what point do you just try to target like guys who fit a long-term competitive window and also are in good enough condition in peak performance on that side? Like, you don't have to overpay them, because I mean I do think teams can be prone to overpaying those blue guys or keeping them around for too long. But like that part of their forward group could have at least been due for some guys that they could have gotten on reasonable deals that were maybe closer to like 26, 27, and they would have at least had a better go around this time than they ended up having.
I mean, one guy at the deadline who, we knew was out there, who's still out there that I think Edmonton should have sold the prospect farm to go get was JJ Paterka. Like, he's kind of the guy that they really should have been in on back in March.
100%.
And
And
he's a
now,
guy they should be in on now.
yeah. And of course, now what they're doing is apparently giving Trent Frederick a fucking 8-year deal. But hey, apparently there is a possibility that, on the goaltending side, they could be trading for John Gibson. Like maybe this is the rumor that actually comes true. But
If I was Edmonton right now, and I was talking to Damien about this on Thursday, I'd be working on a deal with Toronto built around the McDavid for Matthews trade. Like, I think that's a conversation worth having and a deal worth exploring if they're really ready to get crazy. I'm not going to substantiate it anymore, but I think at this point in time, with where both franchises currently are, I don't think it's a one for one if they do it. I do think Edmonton gets a little bit more back if they go down that road. But both teams have made it clear they need a change. And I think both guys would welcome a change at this point.
yeah,
Oh no, I'm not an insider. I'm not even a fake insider. I don't have any sources. This is purely dumbass speculation. Just gotta put that disclaimer out there. And that, I think, leads to a good big finish.
and so do you have any like last minute I don't know PWHL predictions or analysis to conduct?
No, I was gonna save my only key PWHL content for my big finish this week. I really don't have a lot of opinions about how free agency shook out. I'm kind of waiting until after the draft on Tuesday to
Yeah.
cement my opinions, and my pre-draft rankings are out there. My thoughts that a Casey O'Brien, Haley Wynn, Kaltkanova, Nicole Gosling 1, 2, 3, 4 with a hopeful McKenna Webster somewhere at the end of the first round, even though it's probably not going to happen. I put that out in the into the ether of the PW world. And if that's not the draft order, like we'll see how it works out. The player I'm gonna watch the most, no matter where she goes, because she's not on my draft board prominently, is Natalie Mlinkova. Just because she looked pretty bad in my model, and I know there's a lot of hype around her and what she's going to be able to do at the next level. So I'm really curious to see if she's able to be the first player who looked pretty not great in my model to break through at the PWHL level, because like everybody else who broke through in like the P60 ethos, like Brooke McQuigg, who had a really good year, McMahon, who had a good year, like they're like even Jennifer Gardner, like they still performed a lot better than Mlinkova in the model. So I'm very, very curious to see if somebody finally breaks out of the model, or if my PWHLE logic is starting to take shape and I might know more than the scouts. Pretty excited to see how that pans out this year.
Yeah, even Bader has model busters from time to time.
Yeah.
But for a quick AHL update before I get into my big finish, yes, the Calder Cup Final is still being played. Let's see. The Charlotte Checkers actually just picked up a win to stay alive last night in Game 5, winning 4-3 in overtime. Jesse Pula-Harvey was actually the hero in that one, scoring his third goal of the postseason on assist from Matt Kierstead and Justin Sordiff at 15:22 at the extra frame. Let's see. Anything anything else worth talking about from that game. Correspondingly, between that and his one assist in the game, he was awarded the first star. Linus Carlson of the Abbotsford Canucks was awarded the awarded the second star for 2 goals in that game. And of course, Jack Devine, alumnus of the University of Denver and national champion, picked up 1 assist for the 3rd star in that game in Charlotte, as he assisted in keeping his team's title aspirations afloat. Artur Silov definitely showed up in goal for Abbotsford in this game, stopping 36 of 40, but of course, ultimately his team, coached by Manny Malhotra, was not able to get the W to win the championship. So tomorrow night, these teams go at it again in Game 6 as Charlotte looks to force a Game 7 and Abbotsford looks to finally close it out. Also worth noting that the goaltending coach for Abbotsford is Justin Pogg, also known as the guy that Toronto apparently liked more than Tuukka Rask. But in any event, for my big finish this week, I really like the ambition that Philadelphia is evidently exhibiting. As we will know for certain on July 1st, according to Russian language sources that Hockey News Hub on X has been consulting via the acquisition of Maxim Shabanov. And now I do wonder, like, do we go all in at this point? Do we set the table? Does this set the table for us, like, just saying fuck it and developing a small, skilled, and fast team? I say why not? We just saw Florida as one of the lightest teams on average, cement their mini dynasty status unambiguously at this point. So, like, I think that we should welcome this in a vacuum as is, but, like, I want to see this team, who already seems to have a vision for trying to be the best at something, as every contender does, by having a defining characteristic, just exhibit more atypical thinking in how the team is built. And I think, the Shabanov acquisition could obviously beget a Cole Rezny draft pick, which evidently those two camps already get along, as I kind of anticipated that they would. Perhaps similar roster moves down the line. Like, I really want this to be something that they build upon and not something that is just like a flash in the pan and just like a one-off. Like, I think it could be, there's some interesting possibilities here with this acquisition. And I really also just commend it by way of it being like sort of off the beaten path in general, by like plucking a guy from the KHL who was, undrafted and like had proven himself in that environment without necessarily being like a guy that would be your preferred, a lot of teams' preferred Russian import in a lot of senses, not for the least of which that I do feel like it's been quite a while since we have seen, like that sort of breakthrough story. You kind of have to go back to Artemi Panarin, I guess, to find like a close analog. Like, and so for them to really go for it in that manner is something that I think is pretty sick, and I hope is the first domino for other great things.
So for this week, really wanted to click on one of probably my favorite Boston Fleet pickup this offseason. I almost put an article out about it, but I did say I wasn't going to put out any more PWHL articles till the fall. And unlike other PWHL journalists who I'm not going to name, I stand by my claims, and I don't backpedal, and I don't fucking pivot. When I say I'm going to do something, I commit to doing it. I don't fuck around. I don't lie to our followers. So I'm going to talk about it a little bit here, and I'm going to talk about it in the fall when I put up my preseason Boston Fleet article. Very excited about Chloe Orard coming to the Boston Fleet. Something that hasn't been spoken about or has been spoken about a lot, depending on who you talk to in PWHL circles. System fits coaches chemistry. Chloe Orard used in a middle six to bottom six role for New York. We saw her with a 1.21 P60 last year, which I want to just point out is tied with Natalie Spooner, who, to be fair, was hurt last year. Where am I going with this? Well, Chloe Gerard was a much more dominant offensive player and scoring player at Northeastern. So usually, if you want to unlock, and I'm looking at some of the logic where we saw Alex DeBrincat really break through alongside Dylan Strome in Chicago. Sometimes when you unite an underperforming draft player with somebody they have tremendous chemistry with, where they were producing at a pretty impressive clip at the junior or developmental level, you get incredible returns. The reunion of Chloe Gerard with Alina Mueller has the potential to fix a lot of Boston's panic about the loss of Hillary Knight. I'm not saying that Chloe Gerard is going to replace Hillary Knight, but I think if the Mueller Gerard connection gets rolling in a similar means to what it was capable of doing against top level opponents in college, and knowing that Gerard has the skill and the speed to play at this level, that's a super underrated signing for somebody who was able to produce at a 1.45 PPG at one point in her collegiate career playing with Mueller. So really just wanted to put more attention on Gerard potentially being one of the biggest pickups in free agency.
Good stuff. So now, of course, we're at the point where let's see. The free agency period commences in 9 days. And of course, night one of the NHL entry draft will be on Friday. So Kristen will not be present for the live stream, but I will be running a solo show throughout most of the proceedings of round one. It's no secret that I'm not particularly satisfied with the depth of this class. So mostly I will be around to see some narratives play out. And once I've had my fill, I will cease. But I'll finally have a truncated version of my draft rankings out within the next couple of days, and then I will assess what I think are high value picks in written context after the draft is concluded. Plenty to be satisfied with, as well as our regularly scheduled pod in a week. Good stream, and then of course we do kind of move into some quieter days, but we will continue analyzing things as they come up. More data-based, especially with the probabilities model that was used most recently, will come about to evaluate transactions as they come up individually in the coming times. Definitely plenty to look out for, and we hope you enjoy it. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Thank you to everyone who's continuing to check us out on Spotify and YouTube. We'll see you again in a week, or in my case, even sooner than that. Take care, everybody. Have a great night.